Hi everyone, and welcome to this, our first user experience design webinar of the How To series. Previously we've talked about technology, and this time we're going to talk about user experience and the benefits of that in business. My name's John Yardley and I'm a tech lead here at Red Badger. First of all, I'm going to give a bit of a background to Red Badger if you don't know who we are. Red Badger is a digital consultancy that focuses on digital transformation for large companies through innovation and delivery expertise. For the last 7 years, we have positively impacted our clients' culture and created lasting change in process and internal capability. From the beginning, we've been working in an agile way in cross-functional co-located teams to deliver products and services at speed, not sacrificing on quality. Some of the clients we've worked in the past are Fortnum & Mason, and actually we continue to work with them. We've been working with them since 2014. We've worked with the biggest UK supermarket and the UK's biggest retailer. We've also worked with the Financial Times, and we're currently delivering digital transformation projects at the world's largest bank. So here to talk about UXD with me today is our Chief Design Officer, Sari Griffiths.
Hello.
And User Experience Director, Kareem Assad.
Hello.
Hi. So we're here to talk about just-in-time user experience design. Do you want to kick off with what that is?
Right, so I've got a nifty short paragraph to explain it. So it's a way of incorporating user experience design into innovation and delivery process to create a great product. That's the short answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to start off with telling us what a great product is?
Yeah. So important things to remember is what is great product? The definition of it has changed over the time. So if you remember 15 years ago, probably, maybe longer, if you buy a new VHS tape and trying to record some video, TV program, and if you can't do it and complain to your friends probably going to say, have you read your manual? Whereas if you downloaded a new app that would record your TV program, you can't make it work, go to your friend, they're probably going to say, that's really badly designed, you just chuck it away, I'll introduce you, I'll give you another one, which will work much better. So the expectation of customer experience is completely different these days. So at Red Badger, we say good product sits somewhere in between customer needs and business needs and technology that would help deliver. And great product sits somewhere right in the middle. And some people describe it as a three-legged table. And if you imagine that VHS tape period will be the customer, and the leg representing the customer will be somewhat shorter. So without shoving your massive manual underneath it, you wouldn't be able to put anything on the top. And that's the day before. They were quite happy to put up with it. But these days the expectation is you have a nice three legs table that would work perfectly flat on the top.
So yeah, nobody reads manuals anymore, right? So
nobody reads manuals anymore.
You need to have that intuitive nature within the product to be able to just use it.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So how do you deliver a great product then? So the level table that Sari was talking about.
So when you're delivering a product, you want to make sure that it contains 4 things. So if we imagine it in the shape of a pyramid, it's got 4 different layers. The first layer is around feasibility, and that has to do with how technically feasible it is. The second layer is around how valuable it is, and this is to ensure that it meets your business goals. And the third one is about the usefulness, and this is around it meeting your customer needs. And the last and most important bit is the tip, which is about the desirability of it, because this is what makes your customers return and use the product, and it's usually aligned with your business vision as well. The thing is, in the past, what would happen is that people would focus on delivering this whole pyramid or whatever shape it was, square, whatever, but in this case we're thinking of a pyramid, so they focus on delivering the whole thing. And the problem with that is that you'd have to wait quite a long time before you see the value of it. And sometimes they wouldn't cover all layers either, so they might have focused on just the feasibility and the valuable part of it as opposed to the rest. So what happened is when Lean Agile was introduced in different methodologies, it made people think of products as in slices. And unfortunately, in most of the cases, what people would do, they'd focus only on the feasible aspect of it. So it'd be like, let's deliver whatever we can deliver at the moment technically and roll it out. But the problem is it still missed the spot, because you just look at what's technically feasible, but what you don't look at the other aspects. So what we like to do is to look at the product slices from a vertical aspect. So we ensure that we cover the feasible bit, the valuable bit, the usefulness bit, and the desirable bit. And this is what we like to call minimum desirable product, or in short, MDP, as you might hear about it. So to illustrate this for you, if you were to look at it just from the feasible aspect of it, and let's say that you're trying to get a customer from A to B, you might start with like a wheel, and then maybe the next thing you might add another wheel, and then maybe the kind of frame of the car and accessories, and then you have a car. And yeah, sure, you succeeded in getting, at the end you succeeded in getting the customer from A to B, but the problem is while you were doing this whole process, the customer is just waiting. They're not getting anything out there, they're not really using it or getting any value out of it. But if you look at it from delivering a product from a vertical slice and just getting one feature there that covers all these different aspects, and think of, okay, let's get the customer, what's the simplest way to get a customer from A to B? Well, let's give them a skateboard. Already you've got a customer using a skateboard, you're collecting some data, you might learn that they need something to help them with balance, so you add like handles to it, maybe in the next iteration you find out they want to go a bit faster, so you give them a bike. And until you might, in the end, reach the same outcome as the first one, which is a very fast car, but at least you've learned quite a lot and improved on the way, and most importantly, probably saved quite a lot of costs as well, because you're focusing on building the right thing as you go.
And the customer's probably got a car that they would prefer, as opposed to the one that you might have built if you only gave it them at the end.
Exactly. Yep.
You talked a bit about the process there. Why does the process matter? Like, why is it important to get it right?
Yeah, so going back to the memory lane again, in like good story is in 1960s when the American, like Toyota was one of the up and coming the car manufacturer in American industry, American car market, and they were creating the better quality cars much cheaper. And obviously the American motor industry, we all know, not how can I compete with them. They'd tell all the workers, like, the quality is most important, we need to up our quality. The same thing happens at Toyota, they'll say the quality is the most important. So all the workers were told the same thing. The difference is the way they delivered it. So in American factories, typically you have a factory manager who is deciding all the speed of the manufacturing lines and how many cars need to be, produced that month. So workers are, although they know that they need to make it a good product, they have no way of stopping the manufacturing lines or, changing things for the better. That's all in the hands of managers. Whereas at Toyota, all the workers were allowed to stop the line if they spotted any quality issues, and they were allowed to kind of suggest the changes to the way that they delivered it, so that they had the power to improve the production line itself. And by doing so, by having the different process, although they were told exactly the same thing and then trying to achieve the same thing, they were able to create a much better quality products. So having the right process does matter.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that, because if something goes wrong and you can't react to it, and the speeds still remain the same, you can't change it, you can't keep the quality at the same level.
Yeah.
You have to,
although you're thinking you need to, but you will disappear.
Yeah, you're following the wrong sorts of metrics, I suppose, right? Cool. So, so what methods are there to deliver? Like, how has that changed over time?
So in the digital environment, and we're talking about UX and design, I see it about 4 different steps, and obviously there's loads others in between, but roughly speaking, 4. So you have waterfall, and everybody's favorite, and independently agile, which term I kind of coined, so it's not widely known, but I see that as a middle step. And sprint ahead, which is like more Scrum-based agile style, and then just in time, which where we ended up in. So if I kind of explain each of those, start with a waterfall. For those who haven't done waterfall before, I think I have an example using Mojito. So it's if you imagine that the designers are all on the second floor, trying to deliver the ingredients of Mojito to the cup and the shaker on the ground floor through the balcony. And there's no developers there. They're not ready yet. It's not their turn. And obviously, roughly what the ingredients needs to go there, but you also know on the way down there it's going to miss the cup or glass, the shaker. So you probably prepare more than necessary, and you kind of really focus on the way you drop each things. So your focus is really how to deliver this to the level below. And when you end up there, probably half the things scattered all around. Some things is in the wrong cup, should be in a shaker, should be in a glass, it's not in the right place. But from second floor up, you kind of look like Mojito. So you think, okay, well, I've done my job. You walk away. And then the developer comes and there's customer yelling behind, where's my drink? Mm-hmm. And they can see clearly that something is missing. It's not quite enough thing inside. But the option is whether to go upstairs and find this disappeared designers from somewhere, or you have to do with something that you have already. Just make it up. Yeah. So basically that's what tends to happen. So you don't have, the situation is that you have no feedback loop, because as soon as the designer finished, they disappear, developer arrive, and then they're not there. There's no communication, there's no customer involvement, and there's the focus is purely on the output. So in the real life situation, what designers would produce is a massive documentation that would land on somebody else's desk without actual person accompanied. You really focus on that documentation rather than what comes out at the end of it, and you end up hacking a little bit over quality, because if you're trying to make any changes, it will be a change request, it will be massively expensive, and you have to go all the way back. And innovation, that's a big problem. The innovation happens separately, and there's no conversation. The designers might come up with a great idea, but it's totally undeliverable from technology standpoint. Mm-hmm. And developer might come up with the great ideas, but you can't deliver it because it's not quite well designed. So it's not good for the innovation either. Mm-hmm. That's probably it.
I mean, back in the day, it was quite common with quite a lot of clients to kind of use this sort of methodology, and the problem, I think still some people follow it. To Sari's point, documents.
In terms of design, I think it's still fairly common.
Yeah, and to your point about documents, you end up having documents that are like 300 pages long, and the designer spends so much time trying to detail them. Yeah. And then by the time it gets to delivery, somebody will be like, "Oh, we can't do this," or "This doesn't work." And even if it's as simple as like a question, they've not long been gone because they've been put on another project or something. So it's definitely a lot of time. Yeah, definitely.
A lot of time and waste. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the next one's independently agile. So this is my creation. So it's kind of in between. So the designers, by then, the designers discovered that developers are doing this great things called agile, and they wanted to do it as well because apparently they make it better, make it quicker. So the designers themselves adopt the agile process, but not in a true sense of cross-functional, because it's still a massive waterfall between designers and developers. So probably your Mojito is a little bit neater because it will all land at the same time, and it might even have an instruction to go with it. And they probably will arrive a little bit quicker than the last time, but it's still quite a massive waterfall. There's a big gap in between. The focus is still on the handover documents, and therefore, the developers will still have to hack a little bit for the quality, and innovation doesn't quite happen at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a client that had the design kind of sitting separately and development separately, but because they delivered in chunks, it was slightly better than waterfall in the sense that there was like, you know, communication touch points and things like that. But still, the problem was that, you know, they weren't together, that innovation is not happening together. Designers were still in a different place, maybe in some cases, either on another floor, almost in another building. In this case, they were in another building. But yeah, again.
Yeah, that divide like is not conducive to good cross collaboration.
Yeah. And then sprint ahead, which is fairly common, I think, these days. It just basically means the, you know, sprint as in time boxed time period, and so designers would be doing one sprint ahead of developers. So say if the designers are doing sprint 2, developers will be working on sprint 1, and the next sprint will be designer will be doing the 3, and the developers doing the 2. So it's basically it's the same time period. You're doing one ahead of developers. It's kind of, you know, with a mojito, you'll be probably standing next to each other on a separate table. You can see each other. It's a bit better. You can see each other. You can talk to each other. So there's a little bit more communication, and there's a more opportunity for innovation to happen between them. And the feedback loop is a bit shorter. If anything goes wrong, developers just need to shout at the designers next to you, and they probably have the answer. Although 2 weeks ago they might have slightly, you know, forgotten, but you know, it's a lot better than trying and hunt down those who designed it like a year ago. This minor problem there is that you still have a separate goal. So designers will be focusing on their tasks, developers will be focusing on their tasks. So it's still a bit of a separation. And you have a set of tasks that you have to clear in this time period. So it becomes a little bit of a tick box exercise, and like towards the end of your time boxing, you're likely to cut a corner in order to get things like ticked
sort
off.
of like the American conveyor belts. So, you know, you can't stop the amount of work that needs to be done.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how does that work with like keeping things in sync? I assume that, like, you know, sometimes certain things are easier to design than perhaps like implement. Like, how have you found that's worked?
Yeah, I mean, I worked for a large media organization before, and they were working in this style. And yeah, to your point, it was a lot better in the sense that we were sitting closer and we had conversations, and sometimes we even brainstormed together on the solutions and things like that. So more innovation was happening there. And also we managed to get things out in front of customers earlier. But the problem there is that you still, not all user stories are equal. So in some cases you might be that designers were tasked with just design maybe something small like a button or something like that that would take 2 days or so, and then by the time it gets to the developers, it might actually be a lot more complex technically. So they'll end up spending quite a long time doing it while the designers are just kind of hanging about. And in some cases it might be completely the opposite. A story would be estimated to be something very simple from a technical perspective, but from the designer's perspective it would require quite a lot of research, quite a lot of testing, and quite a lot of time spent on developing the design itself for that thing. So yeah, there's definitely that imbalance there that can happen, and at some point some roles might end up being like pushed, like especially testing, like quality testing. At the end it would be like, okay, because all the time would be spent on developing or designing it, and then the testing would be squeezed. So
I think we've all been in that position, I suppose, at one point or another. Just in time then.
So where we end up in, so let's make a mojito in a kitchen all together with a customer in front of you.
Where can I join a party like that?
That's the quick, that's the quickest way to deliver the good quality products. So just in time. So basically, you work on a story level integration. So we know, sprint is the designer work on a sprint, developers work on a sprint, whereas on the just in time, designer work on a story and then passing on to the developer, and the whole team working on the same story in one go. So the feedback loop is very short. Is as long as that particular story takes to be developed. And we all focus on outcome because it's so quick and it's easy to test using the real products. Everybody can see that what they've done is there already, real and working. And everybody focus on quality. Designer will be sit down with the developers and making sure it works as intended, and same goes for the QA. And even if they have any problem, we can sit down and solve it on the spot. So make sure the quality is great. And innovation happens by the entire team because we're all together, we're all working on the same story. There is opportunity for it to happen, plenty of those.
So yeah, and I mean, this is actually the way we like to work with at Red Badger, because it's like you said, a lot quicker to get things out. You get some features straight away, gather data on them, learn from them, input into them. The team is working together, and it's just such a great vibe because everyone's close together. Great ideas can come from anyone, really. So it's just such a great atmosphere.
Yeah, I suppose all that, the waste that we were talking about the earlier methodologies, a lot of that's gone, and not just in the amount of work that you have to do to produce the documents to then pass on to the teams. It's actually like the context and knowledge of like just being there, right now, being out, there's no time wasted, I suppose.
Exactly.
In summary then, so from what I've learned, and I'm sure we've all learned today, so it's not just about the feasibility of the entire product, but taking a slice and covering all of the aspects, even the desirability aspect of it, which I suppose is more important, say, for example, in mobile phone apps where once you've downloaded it, and if you've got disinterested customers, they probably wouldn't download it again. So it's important to have that delight about your product, I suppose. It encourages innovation of the whole team because everybody's working together, and as you said, great ideas come from not just designers or business analysts, but from developers and QA engineers too. Quality, I suppose, this is the biggest thing for me, and I suppose for you as well, making sure that the users always have a quality product at the end. And the quicker feedback loops that we've talked about, not only in iterative development, but from the customer's feedback and being able to incorporate customers' feedback in the product that comes out of the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Cool. So before we end, we asked some people to send in questions before we did this. And one of the questions that we have here is, if you're not creating big handover documents between the different disciplines, what are the sort of outputs that you would create, if any, in just-in-time UXD?
Yeah. So I think most the common one is to create the pattern library. So we do need to have somewhere to record our decision making, because we're doing it just in time and also a more lean approach. Sometimes we make a pragmatic decision of choosing something less costly in terms of development, with a view of measuring it and then improving it later. And that kind of decision needs to be recorded somewhere. And the best place is to have a pattern library. So whatever gone out will be recorded in this library with a comment of what the situation, what the decision was. So I think that's quite important. The other thing would be IA.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you'd also be thinking about all the sort of systems and information architecture and the hierarchies and how the pages are split or the content is split and all these, all the thinking about that.
Yeah, and I guess the important thing is that this is not a one-off document. Like waterfall period, you make a massive document and it's one-off. But for the, whatever the documentation we do for the just-in-time, it needs to be living and breathing. So it's not set in stone. Once the new thinking comes out, it needs to replace the whatever we had it before.
It's constantly updated as well, and it reflects as close to the code, the actual live code as well.
Yeah. And I suppose, I think, are there tools now that you can do version control with design documents as well, so you can actually have comments and things like that. So I know there are probably tools like that out there.
Yeah, I think it's lots of new things coming out in the market. Yeah, there's definitely a need for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Better.
Cool. And so another question we had here was there any? So we talked about the pros of just-in-time, but are there any challenges or downsides that people should be aware of at all? A
few. So I guess the first one crossed my mind is that it's not necessarily the quickest. There's just things to remember is if you're going to do the same amount of work, same amount of features, you're probably going to take the same amount of time as the waterfall.
Yeah.
But what you get, by then, because you start producing it a lot earlier and getting the feedback earlier with the smaller size products. By the time you have the same amount of features, your products have a good quality with a good feedback from the customer, iterated. So the quality of products is much better, but it's not necessarily make it quicker.
Yeah, I mean, if you had two projects, exact same projects, starting at the same time, one following waterfall and the other one just in time, they'll probably end at the same time, except
same amount of features.
Except that the waterfall version will probably miss quite a few spots because the feedback waits. You wait for the feedback until it's released.
Exactly, and I suppose you've got the ability then as well to pivot halfway through if something isn't the right idea, and actually customers want something else entirely.
Yeah,
exactly.
Great. So another question here was that if just in time sort of you gave the impression that co-location is sort of key. Like, can you do this if the team aren't able to be in the same location at the same time for all of the time, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, the ideal is co-location.
Yeah, definitely. You want to aim for that. But I mean, with technology today, it is helping a little bit in the sense that you can do daily stand-ups with some people in one office and the rest on video conferencing. Also, something that we use is we like to visualize our process on Kanban boards, and we have them physical in the office, but we also maintain a digital, almost similar exact duplicate of it. So if your team is not co-located, it can definitely benefit from those digital boards.
And it's quite handy to save all this decisions as well. Not just a pattern library. And if you are not co-located, probably one things that I recommend is to have a opportunity to meet each other, every now and then, and work as a team, co-located team for a few days, so that you actually know how it feels like to be physically together, sitting and working.
Yeah, and also know the people that you're working with.
Yeah, I've been in a similar situation before, and it's so beneficial to meet them, just even if it's the first time. And then maybe a couple of months down the road just to check in. But I found it was much beneficial to meet them in person. Great. And so got one more question here around. So in the old school methodologies of say waterfall, you get these sort of phases where you get designers or creatives coming up with sort of blue sky thinking. Would you say that just in time might kill that idea of blue sky thinking because you're sort of working on a small thing with teams together and you don't have the freedom to do that, or do you think it might enhance it in some way? I
kind of personally, I think it makes your sky bigger in a sense by having everybody together with this different discipline, because if you just have designers together, your limit is the designer's way of thinking, whereas you got developers in, testers in, business analysts in. They all have a different viewpoint, and having that different viewpoint together definitely make you a lot more creative. You kind of egg each other in a sense, make it even better. I think so I think just the fact that everybody's together really helps. The practicality, so I think is the thing about people worry about being too pragmatic when you are in the team environment. And I think that is you do make some teams, yes, they get too realistic, too pragmatic too early on. So it's just that's the way that you set up your team and have a right kind of vision. But I think in terms of possibility, I think having cross-functional team working in a just-in-time makes more opportunity to have a creative solution.
Yeah, and we ensure that all our teams go through kind of a Badger way of working, ways of working, where everybody's aware of the process that we like to take, but also how they can approach a problem and solve it. And to your point, yeah, like having more, all these different people on the team can really help with ideas, because you know, a designer can come up with a really blue sky thinking and then find out a lot later on that it's not feasible at all. Whereas right there on the spot, a delivery person can be like, actually, we can't do that, but maybe we can do this, and then you kind of build on the ideas from there. So you still, there's definitely still that innovation in there.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So I think that covers everything for
Excellent.
this
Yeah.
episode. So thank you for watching. If we didn't answer any of the questions that you may have had, you can email us at bebold@red-badger.com. And if you wanted to know more about how to be bold with technology, you can tune into our YouTube channel, where we've got the previous episodes of the webinar available for you to watch there. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.